Good evening. This is Minister Johnny Banks, Executive Director of A Knock at Midnight. A Knock at Midnight is located at 400 West 76th Street in Suite 206. Our number there is 773-488-2960. And as always, it's good to be here. It's good to be on the show, trying to bring some interesting information that may help stimulate somebody into better thinking, better in their lives, better in the conditions around them. At A Knock at Midnight, we feed the people we serve, the people that we come in contact with. We feed them with the bread of hope, the bread of faith, or the bread of love, things that people need to get themselves going, to get their lives back on track. We do that through the work we do with youth and school-based services that we provide, as well as community-based after-school services that we provide. And with adults, with children, specifically, we work with family advocacy, providing those family advocacy services to that population of people. And it's always, it's just a blessing to be able to continue to serve, continue to help the people that look just like me, continue the people that are not just like me, they're just residents, citizens of the city, and need a hand up, need something that would better their situations. And it's hard as we see things changing around us. The world that we live in right now is changing rapidly. As we get ready for a change in the top of this country, with our current president leaving, a new president coming in, as we see the changes and the struggles that's happening right here in the state of Illinois with our leadership on that level, and as it trickles all the way back down to our own households, the struggles that are occurring based on change. And I want to talk a little bit about that. And call in. The call-in number here is 312-738-1060. And we're going to talk about four things. We're going to talk about preparation. We're going to talk about the effort it takes to prepare properly. We're going to talk about attitude and specialization. I call it P's: preparation, effort, attitude, specialization. Every human being has to prepare themselves for whatever's about to take place. The change that's about to occur, are you prepared for it? And if you're not preparing for it, what are you going to do to prepare for it? If we stop just for briefly and we had a conscious conversation about our situations, about the circumstances that's going on in our lives, the coincidences, the things that are happening in our own lives, if we just stop for a minute, will we be able to say that I'm prepared for whatever happens next? As far as change in leadership, as far as change in employment, as far as change in your life situation, your home situation, are you prepared? Have you adequately prepared for change in your life? And if we know that the one thing that is constant is change, why do we keep showing up unprepared? And I think it's really, really important that we start to prepare for life. We start to prepare for this change in our lives. And if you understand pre, then you know what it means to deal with preparation. Before you make a move, before you do something, pre. Have you done the things before you do it that's going to allow you to be successful or allow you to maintain your life where it is? And many of us have not done the things that we need to do in preparation for what's ahead of us. And it really, really is funny how you prepare for your 60s in your 20s. You don't wait till you get 60 to prepare to be 60. You start preparing for that time in your early 20s. But if nobody's giving you this information, if nobody's showing you how to prepare, then instead of making preparation, you make complaints. So instead of preparing, we blame and complain. And that seems to be a lot of what we're doing these days, blaming and complaining instead of preparing. If a hurricane is on the way, you prepare for it. What bad times people keep saying is on the way. But we're living the same way. We haven't changed, and we should start to change. And so I just ask any call, if anybody's listening at the show, what are you prepared to change if you know the things that are about to happen in your future is going to cause a change in your life? What are you prepared to change that addresses what's going to happen or what you believe is going to happen? We believe that the president-elect is one of the worst people for this country. There's nothing he can do right. He is, as many people are saying, he's a buffoon. But we have to stop and say, wait a minute. No, we know that the guy got elected to the hardest seat in the world to be elected to, the president of the United States. But this guy figured out a way to do it. Oh, so if he did, and he did, and he is now collecting some of the richest guys in the world who figured out a way to become the richest men in the world to work with him to govern our country. If we see that he has chosen to head the be Secretary of Education, a lady that believes in school choice and charter schools, we see this. Now the question is, if we see that who he put over the housing and urban development, everything that's being done is being broadcast. We see it. So the question is, why are we blaming and complaining and not making preparation? When do we stop and say, hold it, man, it's time to properly prepare for what's ahead of us so that at least we can negate what we need to negate so that we can face what we need to face and we can overcome the things that we need to overcome. That stuff is real. So in preparation, you cannot prepare for what's ahead of you without preparing for what's going on in your life right now. The changes that's necessary to either endure the 4 years or to find a way to be successful in spite of. That takes preparation. That takes some conscious effort to do something different. Listen, my name is Minister Johnny Banks Sr. I'm the Executive Director of A Knock at Midnight. The call-in number here is 312-738-1060, and we're just talking about P's: preparation, effort, attitude, and specialization. And when you start talking about effort, if you think about effort is all mental, because it's from your efforts that things start to move. And so effort, in its simplest form, or its simply definition, effort is the mental ability to solve a problem. Effort is the mental energy you put into problem solving. Many of us have problems because we don't put any effort into solving the problem. And how is the problem going to go away without your effort? So when we blame and complain, it means we're not putting enough effort in to solve it ourselves. And we got to stop for a minute. If you believe that the things that are going on in America right now is not going to help you, then you have to put some effort in helping yourself. And without this effort, all you're going to do is continue to blame whites, well-to-do blacks, successful businessmen, successful businesswomen, people who are doing better than you. Just blame them for your situation. And we are not putting any effort into changing the situation. None whatsoever. Everybody that I know pretty much is conscious of the fact that Obamacare is needed. And soon they're going to start a movement to break it down, repeal it, whatever, change it. And if you don't know what it's like not to have health care, then this doesn't mean anything. But for those people who have had inadequate health care services for years, this becomes very important. What are you prepared to be without it? Are you prepared to go back to long lines at the county hospital? Are you prepared to go back to where you may have a pre-existing condition that you can't get no help with? We don't know what the changes are, so what preparations are you making to secure your health insurance? That stuff is real. Well, it takes some effort. And this effort is of a mental nature where you and those people that's close to you sit down and think through, what do we have to do to get this done? But the problem is, what happens when you're in a society that has been dumbed down to the point they don't even have to think? If the average person lost their cell phone right now, they couldn't call 10 people because everything is stored in the phone. So they could not recollect 10 phone numbers. That's only 70 numbers. But you can't even remember these numbers because what? They're not stored anywhere in your mind or anywhere in your cognitive areas of your mind so that you can recall this stuff. And it's just sad. But it's this effort that we need to put in place. You know, I want to read a quote. I was doing some research, and I ran across a quote by Ben Carson, the Secretary of HUD. He's running housing and urban development. The guy says, "I would like people to recognize in looking at my story that the person who has to do with the most what happens to you is you." Let me read this one more time. He said, I would like people to recognize in looking at my story that the person who has the most to do with what happens to you is you. It is not your environment. It's not the other people who you are trying to help you or trying to stop you. It's what you decide to do and how much effort you put behind it. And I stopped and I thought about that and I said, wait a minute. This guy's a neurosurgeon who happens to have been picked for a job. But he didn't need the job. The guy's a neurosurgeon, which means he has one of the brightest minds probably in this country. Maybe he doesn't believe what I believe. Maybe he doesn't think the way I think. Maybe he doesn't even go along with the stuff that I do. But the body of knowledge he has secured for him opportunities that are above my pay grade. That's just telling the truth. So now, out of this truth, I have to look at the quote again and ask myself a question. Have I been able to do what I'm doing because I focus on myself? Have I been able to do what I'm doing that I focus on a particular understanding, a particular body of knowledge, a particular way of living that I know that produces good and services for me and the people that in my family, that's in my life, and that work with me? Is any truth to that? And I think all that we need to stop for a minute and ask ourselves, are we putting in enough effort? Are we putting enough effort for our children to get the education they're supposed to get? Am I putting in enough effort to develop myself even as I continue to grow? Am I putting enough effort into the changing of my community and the betterment of the conditions of the people in that same community? All of us have to answer these questions. We make preparation, then we ask ourselves, are we using our mental energy to solve the problems that are devastating our communities, that are impacting our families, that have our children struggling? Are we thinking it through? Or are we just blaming and complaining? So do we have the actions of blaming and complaining, or do we have the actions of people who are thinking it through and reasoning together what needs to be going on in the communities that's impacting everybody around us? And attitude. Now with attitude, again, trying to understand, we live at a time now where attitudes are bad as they can be. It's amazing how you run across people all the time. Their attitudes are so negative. Always complaining about something. Always. We run across people that never have anything good to say about anything. Always in a complaint mode. Always disagreeing. Always never buying in unless it's something negative or unless it's something that's to pull others down or bring people down to where they are. So when we start thinking about attitude influences an individual's actions and responses to challenge. And when attitude impacts your choice of action and attitude deal with your responses to challenge, it creates a stimuli. And this stimulus that we're talking about is based on incentives and rewards. So let me say that one more time. Attitude is a predisposition or a tendency to respond positively or negatively toward a certain idea, object, person, or situation. Attitude influences an individual's choice of action and responses to challenges, incentives, and rewards. And when you put all that together, it's called, there's something that stimulates your attitude for you to be negative or positive. And the question is, why does the stimuluses always make one person negative and make another person positive? When that happens, now we deal with attitude. And today, in Chicago specifically, we see the attitudes of people as everybody is angry. Everybody is walking around with a chip on their shoulder. Everybody is bent out of shape. People are just downright dirty and mean-spirited. And you really can't understand why, but it's attitude. Because they lack the basic things that they should have done or achieved in life. They can get the incentives in life or the rewards of life. And when people can't get the simple stimulus, it creates havoc, it creates sadness, it creates all that we are seeing right now. Let me give an illustration. There are 4 parts to your attitude. There's the affective part, or what we call the emotions or your feelings. Attitude is not just emotions and feelings, but that's a part of it. Many people find out their attitudes because they're always in their feelings. No matter what's said, they're making them feel some kind of way. So subsequently, they come off with this attitude of aggression, this attitude of hurt feelings. And when you put hurt feelings and aggression in the same person, you got violence. Then we talk about their cognitive part of their attitude that deals with their beliefs or opinions, that they consciously believe this stuff, or they're opinionated about something that they really truly believe, and it affects their attitude, even though when they believe stuff that's not true. Even though when they believe stuff that's not true. Even though when they believe stuff that's not true, it affects their attitude. How much do you think people believe that's not true, but it's their opinion? There's nothing that makes any sense about it. Let me give an illustration. I hope that anybody who's watching the show, you really know that most of the stuff on social media is not true. But a lot of the information that certain aspects of our community get and our society gets is from social media. This stuff is not true. So we start to believe stuff and hold on to stuff that has no basis for truth. None. None whatsoever. It's like watching TV, and there's a guy on TV saying he's gonna send you a blessed napkin or a blessed cloth. Just send him $13.95, and you believe that. I say, man, something is wrong with people. It's something about it. It just doesn't make sense. But when the commercial come on about helping the little boy in Ethiopia who hadn't had nothing to eat, that turns you off. But another guy's on there talking about sending you a blessed scarf or some oil. Just send him a check. I said, man, what is wrong with people? But people believe that stuff. And it shapes their attitude. And it makes them self-righteous instead of right. Then there's a cognitive part of your, and this cognitive is that push for action that wraps around your attitude. Some of us are inactive because of our bad attitudes. So that cognitive part of our attitude that pushes us as a call for action, nothing happens. Then the last part of our attitude is the evaluative. When we evaluate certain things, our attitude can only produce a negative or a positive. But the thing about it is, it produces a negative or a positive based on the 3 things above. So when you start dealing with how you evaluate stuff, how is it that your evaluations never seem to be right? It's like having the perfect person in your life and not know it until they leave. It's like having everything you need right around you, but you walk away from it thinking that you need something else, only to look back and discover you already had everything that you needed. How is it our evaluation skills are so off-centered How was it so off-centered that we couldn't evaluate an election? And instead of being able to vote in Trump, we made sure that Hillary didn't win because we didn't evaluate it because some other people told us the woman was 20-some points ahead. So we underestimated on the evaluation of one person and overestimated on the evaluation of others based on what somebody else has said, which stimulated us to believe it and take it as being true. And today, we have a president that most of us really can't stand. And the reason we can't stand him, because we really don't know a lot about him. Whatever the media has put out there, it's just absolutely insane. And lastly but not least, what do you specialize in? And so when we start talking about preparation, effort, and attitude, it leads you to something that you specialize in. All of us have something that we should be good at. If we prepared for it, if we put the effort into it, if we got the right attitude about it, it should create something that can feed us, something that can sustain us, something that not having a boss we don't like and a man we can't stand. It allows us to specialize in something. I ask anybody, what do you specialize in? What body of knowledge or career skills or what have you learned that this creates for you an opportunity to always care for yourself and your family without anybody else's involvement? And most of us are walking around, we don't have a body of knowledge. We don't have the things that we need that pushes us over the top to be the people we were created to be. So when you start talking about specialize, it's just to give attention to your own work. And some people would say, mind your business. That's a good thing to live by because now you have to focus on your own stuff. You have to focus on your own self. You have to focus on the work that needs to be done in your life. You have to be focused on the things that you need to do for you. And it's not a whole lot that goes on with specialization. Specialization is like a person say, well, I'm an expert. It's the same thing. Most people that are experts is self-proclaimed. They say they're an expert. But when you specialize in something, you have the knowledge, you have the skills. And this only can be done when you've prepared, when you've put in the effort, and you have the right attitude. That failure doesn't mean anything because it's just another opportunity to try to get it right. That not having don't mean anything because in some point, if I keep doing what I'm doing, I will have. So when we look at it from the right perspective, you all, change is coming to our communities, change is coming to our homes, change is coming. We have to do something different. I encourage you, I extol you. Let's try to do something different because the winds of change are blowing all around us. And the people that do what I do, that provide services on a grassroots level, we're going to hear the gnashing of teeth. We're going to feel the hurting of the people in a short period of time. And it might not be the people that we think it is. It might be a new set of people who have lost their jobs, lost golden opportunities. The parachute that they had is gone, and they're looking up and finding themselves struggling to make ends meet, trying to hold on to a job that's folding and living in a home that's really a sinking ship. We're going to have to pull this thing together, and we're going to have to deal with change. And that's all I've been talking about. Change from the perspective of being properly prepared, making preparation, putting in effort, adjusting your attitude, and finding something that you specialize in. Something that you specialize in. Listen, my name is Minister Johnny Banks Sr. I'm with the Knock at Midnight. The Knock at Midnight is located at 400 West 76th Street in Suite 206. Our number is 773-488-2960. We provide a series of trainings, workshops, some around what the topic of the show has just been. Also, we do a lot of stuff on parenting, domestic violence, anger management. We do marriage counseling, relationship development, just a host of training that we do, staff development, professional development training for those who may need it. We're trying to get people to look at and know that change is here. Change has to be the call of the day. Listen, this time runs fast. Again, my name is Minister Johnny Banks Sr. And remember, in the darkest hour, truth and knowledge are the way. Good night, and God bless you.